The morning it happened, the city was waking up slow, as it always did. Coffee brewing, horns honking, joggers panting their way through the first mile of the day. There was no warning, no strange red skies, no tremor beneath the earth, no sirens wailing in the distance, just the usual hum of life. Until it wasn't. Without a single hint, the world changed. It started quietly. A man on his morning run suddenly collapsed mid-stride, his body crumpling to the ground like a puppet with its strings cut. Moments later, a father in his kitchen dropped his coffee mug, clutching his chest before he too fell. One by one, in homes, in cars, on sidewalks, in offices, men simply died. Not just humans. Male dogs, cats, horses, birds. Anything male. Gone. In an instant. Across cities and suburbs, a deafening silence grew as car crashes littered highways, planes in midair lost their pilots, and alarms blared in empty control rooms. In the White House, the president himself, mid-sentence in a heated security briefing, slumped forward across the table, dead. Panic didn't come all at once. It took a few moments. Moments filled with confusion, disbelief. Moments when everyone looked around, thinking, this has to be some nightmare. But then reality sunk its teeth deep. Women screamed, cried, fell to their knees. Cell phone networks collapsed as millions tried to call husbands, brothers, sons. Hospitals overflowed within hours, overwhelmed not with the injured, but with the dead. News anchors stumbled through half-broken broadcasts. Footage showed women collapsing over the bodies of their loved ones. Some reporters broke down live on air. Some just stood there, in shock, their microphones hanging limply by their sides. There was no virus, no terrorist claim, no meteor strike, no explanation. The world had just lost half its population in less than an hour, and no one had any idea why. Regina Oliver was vice president. Technically, the next in line, but she wasn't even on U.S. soil when it happened. She had been in Switzerland for a global economic summit, thousands of miles away. Back home, the chain of command was broken, and when leadership breaks down at the top, chaos seeps into every crack beneath it. Within the first day, emergency services crumbled. Fires burned unchecked in half a dozen major cities. Looting exploded. Women were left desperately trying to maintain law and order, but they were outnumbered by panic itself. Banks closed. Governments fell silent. Planes stayed grounded, some abandoned right where they sat. At first, people thought it might just be temporary, a freak mass event, some kind of strange pulse that would wear off. But by sunset, when there were no signs of recovery, only death, the horror fully took root. The questions came fast, loud, and endless. What had caused this? Was it biological? Radiation? Divine punishment? Speculation ran wild. On what was left of the internet, 1,000 conspiracy theories sprouted overnight. Some whispered about experimental weapons. Some shouted about secret labs. Others claimed this was the natural balance correcting itself. But amidst all the rumors, one terrible truth remained. Whatever had happened was surgical, specific. Only males were affected. The world, as it had been, was over. In the ruins of Washington, a desperate emergency session was held. A skeleton crew of surviving female senators, military officials, scientists, and administrators gathered in a bunker. They needed leadership. Fast. And that leadership, broken and battered as it was, finally decided. Regina Oliver, still alive overseas, had to return. She would be sworn in as the President of the United States, assuming she could survive the journey back home. It took her 3 days. 3 days to get a secure transport. 3 days navigating the crumbling wreckage of international airports. 3 days of crossing borders guarded by terrified soldiers who no longer recognized their own governments. When Regina finally landed in D.C., she walked across a tarmac littered with abandoned vehicles, past shell-shock survivors, into a capital that no longer felt like a nation's beating heart, but like the broken ribcage of something dead. There was no ceremony, no parade, just a worn Bible, held by trembling hands, as she swore an oath in front of 5 grim-faced women. She was president now, the first president of a new, terrifying world. Her first act wasn't giving a speech. It was survival. Without men, the economy wasn't just hurting, it was decimated. Entire industries collapsed overnight. Construction, shipping, oil production, manufacturing. Most had been male-dominated. The power grid flickered in and out. Food supplies dwindled. Water systems broke down. Even law enforcement, decimated. Regina ordered emergency measures. Rationing. Martial law in the most chaotic cities. She sent what was left of FEMA racing to stabilize critical zones. Scientists were ordered to drop everything and find an explanation, any explanation. But no answers came. Weeks passed. In some places, women banded together, forming new communities, rebuilding small pockets of order. In others, things went darker. Some neighborhoods fell into brutal survivalism. Gangs rose. New warlords, sometimes led by the most ruthless survivors, claimed territory like medieval lords. Prisons became fortresses. Weapon stockpiles disappeared. Human life, even among survivors, became dangerously cheap. There were bright spots, though. New voices emerged. Teachers, nurses, engineers, pilots, women who had been overlooked, underestimated, dismissed. Now they led. They rebuilt power plants, restarted water treatment facilities, opened clinics. Slowly, painfully, stubbornly, hope flickered back to life. But the world wasn't just a smaller version of what it had been. It was something entirely different. And it was fragile. Very fragile. Meanwhile, scientists worked frantically. Microscopes, labs, supercomputers, every resource they could scrape together. What they found stunned them. Whatever had caused the deaths wasn't viral. Not biological in the way they understood. It was something else. Something woven into the very DNA of male life. Some theorized it was a cosmic anomaly, a targeted genetic bomb, launched from somewhere far beyond human understanding. Others whispered darker things. That it wasn't natural. That someone, or something, had planned it. But there was no proof. Only bodies. Only silence. Months passed. Regina, now hardened by the pressure of leading a shattered world, stood in the ruins of what once was the White House Rose Garden, staring up at a sky that somehow seemed emptier. She wasn't naive. She knew history wouldn't remember her kindly. After all, she hadn't saved the world. She had simply kept it from falling apart faster. But survival for now was enough. One small miracle at a time. One evening, a low hum buzzed through the cracked radio towers still standing. A new signal. Faint, broken by static, but real. It wasn't just coming from the United States. Other survivors were out there. Other nations had women who had endured, who had organized. The world hadn't died. It had changed. Maybe, just maybe, it was beginning to be reborn.